Hey everyone, let's get into our explainer on the massive resurgence of tabletop gaming in 2026 and how adults are literally reclaiming their offline social lives. Seriously, game night is getting a major upgrade. We're talking way beyond those dusty, forgotten boxes from our childhoods. You know, the ones that always ended in 3-hour arguments over fake paper money or getting knocked out in the first 10 minutes. Instead, we are smack in the middle of a genuine, modern renaissance of tabletop design, and it's catering specifically to adults who want real strategy and real connection. Okay, $14.32 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That is the staggering estimated value of the global board game market right now in 2026. And what's really wild about this data is that this massive market growth, it isn't being driven by kids' toys or, cheap holiday stocking stuffers. It's actually heavily driven by adults who are actively hunting down deep cognitive engagement. Think about it. After a long day of passive consumption, like scrolling feeds or binge-watching shows, we're craving a hobby that actually challenges our brains. We want something that forces us to plan ahead and offers fresh, dynamic ways to actually interact with our friends around a table. And the driving force behind this boom is something I think pretty much all of us can relate to: the desperate need for a digital detox and making real physical memories. As this quote perfectly points out, the default evening for so many of us adults involves just staring at a screen, whether it's a phone, a TV, or a gaming console, and often in total silence. Well, board games completely pull us out of that isolation. They create this kind of forced quality social time. When you're physically in a room together, you have to read the room, make tactical decisions, talk a little trash, and genuinely engage your mind with the people sitting right across from you. But, behind the scenes, the industry is navigating some incredibly complex economics. Recent 145% U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports, which is exactly where a huge chunk of mass-produced games are printed and assembled, are really forcing production costs up. And that significantly squeezes publisher margins. Naturally, this leads to rising retail prices, which in turn kind of slows down the overall market growth. So to adapt and justify these higher price tags to buyers, publishers are increasingly blending analog gameplay with digital companion apps. They're hoping to capture tech-savvy consumers with a unique hybrid experience that actually feels worth the investment. All right, let's move into our first major section here, the popularity paradox: sales versus satisfaction. Check this out. Monopoly has a massive 36.1% market share. Think about the sheer scale of that. Over a third of the entire global tabletop market belongs to one single game. But here's the real kicker: this total dominance exists despite what gaming enthusiasts actually think of the gameplay. Its incredible ongoing sales are driven almost entirely by brand ubiquity, pure nostalgia, and those endless themed editions people buy as default safe gifts. It's definitely not dominating because it delivers the best or most engaging modern gaming experience available today. We can actually see this disconnect perfectly when we compare Monopoly's pretty dismal user rating of 4.4 out of 10 on BoardGameGeek to a modern gateway game like Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride also boasts incredibly high global sales, but it pairs that commercial success with a much higher 7.5 rating. So why the huge difference? Well, older classics often rely heavily on pure luck and punishing mechanics, like player elimination. I mean, we've all sat there watching our friends play for an hour after going bankrupt, right? Ticket to Ride, on the other hand, gives you accessible strategy, gentle table tension, and keeps everyone engaged right up until the final turn. It just goes to show high sales absolutely do not always equal high satisfaction. Now, if we look at how price impacts demand across different tiers of gamers, a really fascinating pattern emerges. A beginner game priced at around $20, it only sees a 5% drop in demand when prices fluctuate. Casual buyers are relatively insulated from this sticker shock. But notice what happens with advanced games. A $50 strategy game sees a steep 12% drop in demand. Because tabletop enthusiasts are often buying multiple titles a year to build out their collections, they feel the pinch of those supply chain issues, shipping hikes, and tariffs way more acutely than someone who's just picking up a single party game for the holidays. Moving right along to Section 2, the modern masterpieces, from gateway to heavyweight. So these are the accessible gateway hits. We're talking about games that might only take 10 minutes to learn, but they offer real, rewarding choices that keep you coming back for more. We've got Catan, the modern pioneer that completely revolutionized game night with heavy negotiation, trading sheep for wood and literally breaking friendships over a single brick. Then Ticket to Ride brings this incredibly satisfying, gentle tension of claiming train routes across the country before someone cuts you off. Codenames is just an absolutely brilliant word association party game that handles larger groups perfectly, turning everyone into rival spy masters. And Azul gives you this elegant, highly visual tile drafting that feels like a puzzle you can solve in just 30 minutes. These basically form the bedrock of any modern game collection. But hey, for those craving intense cognitive engagement, these heavyweight masterpieces offer deep, multivariable strategy where luck takes a total backseat to long-term planning. Brass Birmingham puts you right in the Industrial Revolution, forcing you to navigate deep economic resource dependencies where timing is literally everything. Arc Nova is this remarkably accurate, incredibly deep zoo simulator where you're constantly balancing conservation efforts with commercial appeal. Arcs is a brilliant cutthroat space domination game driven by fascinating trick-taking mechanics. And Root offers radical asymmetric woodland warfare. It's a wild concept where every single player at the table is basically playing a completely different game with totally distinct rules. And, this demand for real strategy without the massive 3-hour time sink has led to the rise of brilliant niche games like Smoothie Wars. This one perfectly captures players who want the thrill of building an economic engine, but maybe only have 45 minutes to spare. It's gaining massive traction right now because it successfully scales all the way up to 8 players, and it actually teaches genuine resource management and market manipulation skills. It's absolute proof that deep, satisfying strategy is becoming so much more flexible, educational, and accessible to totally different types of gaming groups. Let's dive into Section 3, the award ecosystem, and how the industry goes about crowning the best. Just notice the stark contrast here among the nominees for the Spiel des Jahres, which is basically the industry's most prestigious prize. On one side, we have highly approachable, family-friendly nominees for the main award, like Cozy Stickerville, a peaceful, sticker-filled downtime game meant for casual afternoons. But then on the other side, we have the Kennerspiel, or Consumer nominees. These highlight slightly heavier, more complex experiences. You've got Rebirth with its rewarding area placement mechanics, the cooperative monster balling of Boss Fighters QR, and the really tense risk management found in Moon Colony Bloodbath. And this divide between casual and complex perfectly captures a constant debate you'll see on enthusiast forums, arguing over why the major awards prioritize broad accessibility over extreme depth. Jury member Udo Bartsch sums it up perfectly right here. He states plainly that the Connoisseur Award is not a prize for experts because, quote, experts don't need recommendations. After all, they're experts. The awards really exist to guide the general public and everyday families toward reliably great experiences, not necessarily to validate the hardcore hobbyists who already know exactly what mechanics and designers they love. Okay, on to our final section, the decision matrix, and how to actually build your collection. Building a really great collection without overspending basically boils down to answering one critical question. When you're staring at your shelf with your friends on a Friday night, how do you know exactly which box to pull down? Because let's be real, a sprawling library of 20 complex games you never play serves absolutely no purpose, compared to having 4 carefully chosen games you know deeply and love returning to. Picking the wrong complexity for the wrong group is literally the fastest possible way to ruin a game night. So here is your solution matrix. Let's walk through some real-world scenarios so you can match your group size and available time to the exact right cognitive experience. Imagine you've got 6 or more people over with totally mixed experience levels, some gamers, some not. Pull out codenames or 7 wonders to keep everyone involved without completely overwhelming them. What if it's just 2 players looking for a serious, quiet session? Brass Birmingham or Root is your perfect answer. Do you have brand new players at the table who have never played modern games? Stick to the welcoming mechanics of Ticket to Ride or Catan. If everyone wants to cooperate against the board rather than attack each other, go ahead and set up Pandemic. And if you have 2 solid hours and a serious craving for heavy strategy, reach straight for Scythe or Arc Nova. The tabletop hobby has truly matured into a genuine art form. These modern titles are designed with the rigorous precision of great puzzles, the engaging social dynamics of good sports, and absolutely incredible visual craftsmanship. So to wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this thought. Looking at those thousands of worlds in a box just waiting to be opened, what world are you going to explore tonight?